I'm Venu Keller. Welcome to Venu Inspires. It's time to give your children a childhood they won't have to heal from. Good morning and welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. Today, I wanted to talk to you about how do we set the standard for our kids? How do we help our kids understand where the bar is? You know, some of us may look at grades and we want our kids to be an A student. And what does it mean for our kids to be an A student? What does that A actually mean? What about the way that we clean our room? What about the way that, what's our hygiene routine? There's different standards that we have, the way that we wear our clothes, like what our clothes look like. What are the standards in your home? And how are you helping your children understand that this is just a standard? And why is it important to have the standard of this? So one of the things, especially when it comes to grades, it's why is it that A's are important to you? What are you making it mean? Does it mean that they're above the rest? Does it mean that your kid's the best? Does it mean that, you don't have to worry, there's no fear if they're going to be failing or if they're not going to get into college? I would definitely explore, first of all, what are you making it mean to you? And then I would ask your child to say, what does it mean to you to have an A versus a B or a C? Because as much as I know it's important for all of us that our kids have a bar that they can reach, we need to allow them to know what that bar even means. What does it mean to them? So just again, taking grades into example, if you find it important to have an A, because you know that it means that they're understanding the information, they're putting the effort in, they're following the rules to turn things in and get things done in the right order, and you want to celebrate that, it's important to teach them that too, that's what that A means. That an A doesn't mean that I'm not going to love you. Because one of the reasons why kids don't want to tell us stuff or tell us oh, here's my report card. Because I remember when I was little, if I didn't have an A or B on my report card, I was so afraid to tell my mom because I was going to get in trouble. And when I think back, it's not about the fear of getting in trouble as much it was the fear of not feeling good enough, feeling I disappointed my mom, creating more stress for my mom or more agitation for my mom. Because I would get in trouble and then I would be over it, right? I get spanked or I get grounded and then I'd be over it. It was the long-term effect of that and what it made me feel like. So how do we negate that in our kids now? One of the ways and one of the things that I do with my kids is I ask them, what does that grade feel like to you? Are you happy with it? What does it mean to you? And I also allow them, when they get hundreds on their little math quizzes or their spelling tests or whatnot, I get them to anchor that feeling in. What does that feel like to have that A? Doesn't it feel great? What does that mean to have that A? What does it mean about you to have that A? So at least they know what it feels like. So when they get their report card and it's not an A, and maybe they are disappointed, it's, well, what would that A mean to you? And, what does that B mean to you? And then what would you have to do to get that B to an A or that C to an A? And sometimes, my son says, well, I don't know. Can you ask the teacher? What I tell him is you're in fifth grade. You need to ask the teacher. It's your grade. I want my kids to take the ownership of their grades, that they put the effort in, they put the effort into studying, doing the work, and they got the grade that they chose to, go after. However, if they're having a challenge, so, my daughter has a challenge in math, and I know that she puts an effort in, and I know that she can do better as well. However, when she's putting the effort in and she's doing what she can, and the teachers are saying, no, she puts an effort in, I see her studying, I see her doing it, and she's still not getting more than a C, it's time for me as a parent to say, okay, what can I do to support her in getting a better grade? Because a C definitely reflects that she's just not getting it. She's not understanding it. It doesn't mean that she's a bad student. It doesn't mean that she didn't put an effort in. It doesn't mean that she's worse than anybody else. It's taken away the judgment. It's taken away the comparing, and it's seeing your child for who they are and what supports do they need. And so what I did is I got my daughter some help with her spelling and to understand how to comprehend things by putting words together and knowing what the words mean. And guess what? It's definitely helped her in math because she's able to read those word problems now and understand and comprehend the word problems better. So there's more to just a grade in just seeing if they've done good or bad. It's really going into the meaning. And I'm just using grades as an example. When I talk about cleaning their room, it's what's the standard of clean? Have you gone in there with them and cleaned the room with them so they can see, like, I want you to look at your bed. I want you to look at your dollhouse. I want you to look at your desk and your cabinets. And what do you notice about it? What's clean about it? Is it, dust free? Is everything put away? Does everything have a home? And then I want her to know, what does that feel like to have a room that's clean? What does it feel like to go to sleep with a room that's uncluttered, that's clean? It feels fresh to you. That's the standard. So our standards are developed by the parent's guidance. And it's also developed when we can allow them to associate to the feeling of what that standard is. So I invite you to ask yourself, how are you setting the standard for your kid? And if you have a different way of doing it, I would love for you to share in the comments, what is your way of setting the standard for your child? How is your child responding to that standard? And are they adopting that standard as their own? So they're constantly reaching for that next level. Because when we know that there's a next level at something, we know that there's still growth. And one of my mentors has always said, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so how are we helping our kids to always, put that standard, like raise the bar? If you've reached that standard, what's the next one? And how would that look? So again, I invite you guys to investigate in your own family. How are you setting the standards? How are your kids adapting to it? How are they adopting it? And how are you implementing it? And don't forget to comment below whether this helped you, or even, again, if you have a different way of doing it. We would love to hear about how your ways are, because again, as I always say, in order to give our kids a childhood they don't have to heal from, we have to be open to being the parent our child needs to be, which means that there's always different ways that we can implement things in our kids' lives so they feel seen and heard, and they know that they have an open, safe, and trusting space to communicate with their parents. See you next week.